Hello everyone. I was browsing across the internet yesterday and I came across this picture, as you can see on the screen, and I found out that there is a problem with this structure and I decided to make a video on it. Now, before I explain what the problem is, I need you guys to look at this structure and tell me in the comment section below, where do you think the problem is in this structure, and I would like to know. Now, if you think the problem is located somewhere here, as you can see, we don't have any column or we don't have any beam on this part of the structure. So if you think this is the problem, then I'm sorry to say you are completely wrong, because there is no way a structural designer on this earth is going to design a structure that will look something like this, that will have no column extended to the footing and there will be no beam here. There is no structural designer on planet Earth that will design such a structure, and also no client will accept such a structure. Because this is a Photoshop picture, they actually remove the column and the beam from the structure. Normally the column should extend to the footing like this. So this column, they will extend to the footing like this. This one also extend to the footing. And we are going to have some beams here. So we are going to have a beam here. So because this is a Photoshop image, they actually remove the beams and the column. So this is not the problem. Now I'm going to explain to you where is the problem. What is the problem with this structure? The problem with this structure is located somewhere here. So this is where the problem is. Now if you take a look at this, if you take a look at this beam here, this beam, the length of this beam to this beam, as you can see, they're having the same length. So the length is the same. But when we get to this part of the structure, this beam here, as you can see, this beam here has a shorter length. So the span is shorter. And we also have a column here. As you can see, we have one column here. We also have one column here. This is the problem. If, for example, we don't have any column here, let's say we remove this column here. So let's say we don't have any column here. So meaning this part, meaning this beam is going to be a cantilever beam. This beam over here is going to be a cantilever beam. So this will be no problem. So there will be no problem with this. But because we are having a column here, as you can see, because we are having a column here, meaning this is going to be a problem, because the stiffness of this side of the structure is going to be more compared to this other side, because we know that the stiffness K is equal to negative E, which is the modulus of elasticity, negative E, which is the modulus of elasticity, then multiplied by I, which is the moment of inertia, then divided by the length squared, that is the length cube, that is the span length. And we know that stiffness K is inversely proportional to the length of the beam. So we know that a small span length will lead to higher stiffness, while higher span length will lead to lower stiffness. So because this part of the beam has lower span, this part of the beam has a small span compared to this other part of the beam. So meaning this side of the beam is going to produce higher stiffness. So when we apply an earthquake load on this structure, so when we apply a lateral load on this structure, this part of the beam, this part of the structure is going to be more stiff compared to this other side of the structure. So because this side is more stiff, meaning this part of the beam is going to receive more load, so it is going to absorb more load, and because of that it is going to result to failure in this part, because this part is more stiff compared to this other side. So what we can do is we can either get rid of this column, we can get rid of this column here. So if we get rid of this column here, then we are going to have a cantilever beam here. We know that at this point of the cantilever beam, the moment is 0. Then at this point we have the maximum moment. But if we have this column here, then meaning at this point we're having maximum, and also at this point we're also having maximum moment. So if we get rid of this column, we are going to reduce the stiffness of this part. So it's going to help the structure to perform better during an earthquake. But sometimes you have limits of the cantilever beam. If this beam is more than 1.5 meters in length, you are not allowed to leave this beam alone. You need to place some column there. So what can we do in such case? So what we can do is we are going to use reinforcement. We are going to provide more reinforcement in this part of the session. So I'm going to draw the reinforcement so that you can see what I'm trying to talk about here. So let me erase this. So let's say this part is the shortest span. So let's say this part is the shortest span of the structure. So this part is the shortest span, and we're having these columns. So these are the columns. Normally we provide reinforcement inside this beam. So we provide longitudinal reinforcement like this inside this beam. Now in this region, we are going to add more reinforcement. So we are going to add more reinforcement in the smaller region. So this is the smaller region. So we are going to add additional reinforcement here. So we're going to add additional reinforcement here like this. And so this is going to be the other reinforcement at the bottom. So we're going to have an additional reinforcement here. Okay, so it's going to make this beam to perform better during earthquake. So, and also you also need to provide the transverse reinforcement. So this is for shear. So this part is going to be the transverse. So we also need to provide the transverse reinforcement, which is for shear. So it's going to look something like this. So this diagonal part, these are the transverse reinforcements. So this will help the structure to perform better in shear during an earthquake. So we can provide more reinforcement inside this column, and we also need to provide the transverse shear reinforcement. As you can see, we're going to provide this inside the beam so that this will help the beam to perform better during earthquake. So if we draw a section like this, if we make a cut and we look at this beam, we are going to have something like this. So it's going to look something like this. So we are going to have top reinforcement. We are going to have top reinforcement. We're also going to have bottom reinforcement. Then we're having additional reinforcement. So we applied additional reinforcement. So we are going to have additional reinforcement. Then also we have additional reinforcement on the middle. Additional reinforcement on the middle. And we are also going to use the transverse reinforcement. So this is for shear. So this will make the building to perform better in shear. So this will look something like this. So this is like the hook. It will look something like this. So this will help to tie the longitudinal bar together. So it will look something like this. So it will look something like this. So this one is for shear. While this one is for shear. So this one is for shear. While the longitudinal bar, this is for tension. So this will help the beam to perform better in tension, because we know that beam, they perform better in compression, but they don't perform better when it comes to tension. So they are very, very weak in tension, but they have a lot of strength when it comes to compression. So this is why we need to provide more longitudinal bar inside the beam and more transverse bar inside the beam for shear, and more longitudinal bar inside the beam for tension. So this is the problem with this structure.